Hi, and welcome to Mojave 4 Presents. We are going to be plugging plot holes. This week we are plugging plot holes, and we are excited because we have a list of 12 celebrated plot holes that you can find on the interwebs. If you have plot holes in movies that going along just fine, and then all of a sudden something doesn't make sense to you, and you're like, that is a plot hole, feel free to mention it, and we'll put it on our list of plot holes to plug. Basically, the idea is we're going to take plot holes that people complain about and kind of discuss our way through how we would arrange and fix said plot hole. Sometimes it's just a matter of headcanon, and sometimes it's a matter of rewriting things.
Yes.
But for the most part, we are talking about how oftentimes, and we are victims of this, we complain about how a movie messed up, but we never offer a solution. So this is all about offering solutions to common plot holes, or plot holes that people have noted and are in some cases very famous. So I'm going to spin this wheel, which is numbered 1 through 12, and it corresponds with 12 plot holes. We actually crossed out Armageddon because our first episode we got Armageddon,
right?
And I think we actually were defending Michael Bay,
Yeah,
which is not a normal thing to do, really.
That one turned back on us.
Yeah, people love taking pot shots at Michael Bay, but as we said earlier today,
Yes,
you don't make Michael Bay money without doing something right. So
exactly. That's exactly it.
So we're going to spin the wheel of
Plot holes.
plot holes.
Number 10.
10, The Maze Runner.
Ooh, the
The
maze,
Maze
runner.
Runner. So let us see
What is the plot hole?
the plot hole that people complain about in The Maze Runner. The Maze Runner. During the "we've tried everything" dialogue exchange, Newt says that they can't climb to the top because the ivy doesn't go all the way up. But in multiple shots of the maze wall, it is clearly visible that the ivy goes all the way to the top. Interesting. So basically, that just sounds like a design flaw.
Wow.
A designer's flaw.
Yeah.
When they were doing, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was CGI.
Right.
that they CGI'd the map and they were texturing it and they put the ivy all the way up to the top. We have tried everything. The ivy doesn't go all the way to the top. There are a number of ways that you can look at this particular thing. One of them is that the ivy will not support your weight past a certain height.
Yes.
So you can get a certain ways up, and then the ivy is simply not strong enough and will just peel away from the wall, and then you will fall to your death.
Right.
That is a conceivable way to look at it.
Yes.
The other way to look at it is the characters themselves living in an exhausted state. They have not witnessed or observed. What they have observed is the ivy not getting all the way up in certain areas of the maze, because the maze is massive and huge and strange. And perhaps they are just familiar with the part of the maze that they are familiar with.
Right. They can.
Because if I'm not mistaken, they tend to die shortly into the maze.
It's true.
So their knowledge of the maze is probably very circumstantial. So there's a good chance that they don't really know things, and they're kids. They're kids, so what they deem themselves to be the truth becomes the truth without any investigation. They don't actually question things past their own belief. That's one way to look at the Maze Runner. And again, I don't know that that's a plot hole as much as it is a mistake.
Yeah, I think
a design element mistake. Because dialogue versus design work is oftentimes not always hand in hand.
Right.
Oftentimes what you find is that people are set to design, and they don't have the script in hand necessarily. They have the descriptions in hand, and then when they're creating it, and it just might be oversight. Especially when you get those large-scale movies, there's a lot of people working on them and a lot of things going, and it could be a simple matter of oversight. However, going back to plugging plot holes, I think that you're dealing with juvenile logic.
Yeah.
Because it could even be something as simple as, I don't want to climb that
Right.
wall.
I was going to say, it's someone just lying.
Yeah,
just straight up lying, saying, no, it doesn't go all the way up there. I mean, because conceivably they can only see so high. I don't remember what the dimensions of the wall were. but I imagine that they're, several tens of meters high. So there's no way you're looking up there and seeing the very top. So
Likely, possibly. Or, again, like I said, it just could be their own mythology of the maze. Because, again, I am not a avid Maze Runner watcher.
No.
I did see it when it came out, and that was a while ago. And my understanding of the maze was you could only get so far before you were, either squished or eaten by something or, or killed. So running in and out was the thing. That's how you became a Maze Runner. You ran to map a little bit, and you run back out with a little bit more of the maze to to solve.
Right.
So there's numerous things, because also if you're running in and out of the maze, you may not be thinking to look up. So they may only know what they can see from their vantage point, and not necessarily everyone's vantage. Because I think that we tried everything. Again, not knowing the movie verbatim, that we tried everything is outside the maze about solving the maze. So yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's a curiosity to it, because I think that we mistake plot holes with mistakes.
Right.
It's not necessarily a storytelling plot hole. If anything, it would have been a deterrent to the pace of the movie if we spent a lot of time climbing up the wall, getting on top of the wall,
right,
and observing the maze from there, because then you're dealing with, does that really help you see the solution of the maze?
Right. You think of a movie like The Labyrinth, where she even enters at an elevated point and can see the vastness of the labyrinth, and it's like there's no solution to be seen from there looking at it.
Right, and the way that mazes are oftentimes done, even if you're on top of the wall and running around, you might find yourself in a place where it doesn't go anywhere. Then you're just on this bit of wall, and then you'd have to get to another wall, but you may not have conveyance to the other wall. No. So I don't know that being on the top of the wall is the great solution, and maybe that was just his way of saying, look, we actually did that.
We're trying to take this out in dialogue. Look, we didn't do this.
Yeah, we didn't do it. It's like, you can't do it. But what they're not telling you is about the 50 kids who did do it and all died.
Yeah.
So
it's just easier to tell you it doesn't go up that way.
You just can't do it.
You just can't do it.
So those are like the headcanon ways to go around something that does sound like a pretty glaring thing. It's like, oh, they said they couldn't do it, but it's obvious they could.
Right.
And it's like, well, what would the solution be if they did? If they climbed up to the top of the wall, would they be able to solve would it lead somewhere that they could go? Especially early on in it, what are the odds that you're going to be able to just run along the wall and never get to a place where there's an expanse that you can't cross?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I identify it as a plot hole right off the bat.
Yeah.
It is it's a mistake worthy of pointing out.
Yeah.
It's a ha ha, but I don't know if it's necessarily.
I just want to point out now that we've done 2 of these, and
we found
neither one of are really plot holes.
They're not plot holes as much as they are strange occurrences within the text that allow you to question.
That's funny.
What is going on?
That's funny.
Although in Armageddon's case, it just seemed like it wasn't a plot hole at all.
No.
It was just a funny turn of phrase. This seems like someone got a little overzealous in design. I was like, oh, you know what? We can make the veins go all the way to the top.
That is true.
So
there you go. All right. We may have plugged a plot hole. We may not have. Not sure there was a plot hole to plug. But there you have it. Plug and plot holes.
I'll take my handy dandy Sharpie and I'll just cross out the maze.
The Maze Runner. So we'll replace it with another one.
We will replace it with another
And
one.
we'll give it next week another spin on the wheel here and try and plug another plot hole. Thank you for joining us.